Red Detective.
Ancient sands, heed my command.
Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning?
And reclaim these relics of hatred.
Morphin' time!
Same thing that happens to everything else.
If the apocalypse comes, beat me. Beat me. Beat me. Beat me.
Welcome to Real Hot Nerd Shit, a pop culture podcast where real hot nerds talk about real nerd shit. I'm your host, Ryan.
And I'm your co-host, Shauna.
And on this episode of Real Hot Nerd Shit, we'll be talking about the movie Clerks in our theme, In the Rear View Askew, or The View Askewniverse. We haven't decided yet, but we will come down on one. We'll be talking about Kevin Smith movies over the next 3 episodes.
Cool. And to do that, we have our special guest hot nerd for the episode, Kylan. So welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Really excited to have you. So, tiny backstory, because we always just share these. Myself and Shauna got the opportunity to do a panel with Kylan a couple of summers ago at the Flaming RiverCon, and I honestly think Kylan was kind of one of the people that reminded me that, like, you can just do podcasts. Like, you don't need to, like, put, like, your heart, like, your life's work into it. It can be something that you enjoy doing, like, not as a profession. I wish it was a profession. I would absolutely totally make a job out of this. But, like, I guess what I'm saying is, like, regular people have podcasts too. I don't know. Like, it really encouraged me to be like, okay, I can do that. I know a person that has a podcast now.
Well, look, I tell you, I was on 2. I'm still on 1. They hand these things out like chiclets. Look, if I can do a podcast, anybody could do it. I promise.
You know what? You're right. And honestly, the thing that should motivate me is that, like, mediocre white dudes have it, and they somehow monetize it.
Many.
Wild.
And many.
Exactly.
Too
many. Too many, one could say. So we kind of realized we had a bunch of nerdy things in common. But to introduce yourself, we always ask our guests if a nerd is someone who is weirdly knowledgeable and passionate about something, and sometimes that thing is uncool, considered uncool by some people. What are you a nerd about?
All right, I thought about this, and I will tell you the one thing that I can tell you that I know for a fact people think is uncool, but I will also say that Kevin Smith thinks is very cool is The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. Like, I absolutely love that movie. If you want to know why I do podcasts, here's why. I would say, so the movie came out in 1984. I must have seen it on HBO like a year or 2 later. So let's say 15.
In what year?
1984.
Okay.
So yeah, in the 1900s, as
yes, correct.
Like to say. So, 15, 16-year-old me, I had seen ads for this. Like, I was big into comics at that point, so I had seen ads for this movie, which never showed anywhere around where I was living in West Tennessee at that point. Mm-hmm. So I finally got to watch this movie, and I became obsessed because Buckaroo Banzai was this guy who was a neurosurgeon. He was a neurosurgeon, an astrophysicist, a rock star, a race car driver. He was fluent in like 12 languages. He knew like 6 martial arts. And I was like, I want to be that dude, right? Yeah. And it was sort of like one of those things like I didn't think could ever really happen. And he was surrounded by all these really cool people who were experts in their own fields, right? So at this point, I knew nothing of Doc Savage. So I didn't realize that was the inspiration. I just had this. And then once as I got more into history, and I got more into who Albert Einstein was, and the fact that he was essentially a Renaissance man, and I got to find out what that concept was. I was like, I don't have to just be, and I think at that point I was thinking about being a lawyer. I'm like, I don't have to just be a lawyer. I could be a writer. I could be this. I could be that. I could be all these things, right? And so as I got older and I started finding opportunities to add things to my life, that's what I did. So um, that is the one thing that I am that fandom I'm legit passionate about, and Kevin Smith is too. I believe at one point, about I guess at this point 5 6 years ago, Kevin Smith was working to bring back bring back Buckaroo Banzai as a series. But this is one of those properties that nobody knows who owns the rights.
Oh.
And
I thought you were
so,
just gonna say that nobody knows, period.
right,
But
and that too. It's
sure.
like, yeah, I tried to explain this movie to people, and they're gonna be like, "What?" So, but
I
yeah,
was looking at the plot synopsis, and I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and read what how Rotten Tomatoes call it. It's got a 67% on Rotten Tomatoes. Um, Buckaroo Banzai is caught with his trusted allies, the Hong Kong Cavaliers, in a battle to the death between evil red aliens and good black aliens from Planet 10. Shout out to the black aliens being good.
mhm.
Uh, Led by demonic dictator John Warfin, who has taken over the body of Italian scientist Dr. Emilio Lizardo. The aliens try to get the overthruster back from Buckaroo Banzai, but the good black aliens are willing to destroy the Earth rather than let these renegades return to their planet. Wow, I want to get so high and watch that movie.
Look, you know what? Check out the cast, and your jaw is gonna drop at who.
Is this going to
There
be
are
like a what's it called? I already saw Jeff Goldblum, so the thing that I was going to say is like Rocky Horror. Like you look at the cast of Rocky
Mm.
Horror and you're like,
yes,
Susan Sarandon, what the fuck are you doing here?
yes.
John
It
Lithgow, Jeff Goldblum, Christopher Lloyd. Wow.
Yeah, it's Peter Weller was Buckaroo Banzai. That was my introduction to Peter
Because
Weller. Was
that's
that movie?
Optimus Prime, right?
Uh, RoboCop,
Wait, no, wait, oh, RoboCop. No, wait,
right?
Peter Cullen
Peter Cullen,
is there we
right?
go. Okay.
Now, I will
Who
say
else is in this
this:
movie?
if you look at if you're a real deep Star Trek nerd, if you look at some of the some of the tech manuals, the propulsion systems were built by Yo-Yo Propulsion Systems, which is where the red electroids operate from in Buckaroo Banzai. And they say that every
Okay.
now and then, that in every episode of the Next Generation, that the oscillation overthruster is somewhere in the. I love Star Trek. Don't get me wrong,
Sure.
but I'm not that dedicated to look for the overthruster. In
Sure.
every
It's a
episode,
lot of work.
it's a
Yeah.
lot of work. Yeah. So
Yeah. Very cool. I am thrilled about learning about this very niche nerd movie that Kevin Smith also likes. And again, this sounds like the kind of movie that you get super high with your friends and you ride it out. Cause I have to imagine it's now it's 41 years old.
yeah.
It there's a turning point in technology where it's still like campy, and like anything made in 1984 is inherently going to be campy good
Yes.
versus
Yeah.
like when things took a turn for like campy bad when they were like trying too hard.
Right. Yeah. I will tell you, I've every time I watch this movie, I've always watched it sober. I've heard people say that, and I think I'm probably the one of like four people on the entire
And
planet that
yeah.
willingly watches sober. But yeah, I've been told that actually one of my best friends, he's like, I tried to watch this movie. I got like 10 minutes into it. I couldn't do it. I think maybe I need to take something. I'm like,
Yeah.
you can. I'm like, I can't explain
Can't relate,
why.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's like my jam.
Very cool. So, speaking of campy, we're gonna transition into our general banter portion of the cast, as if we have not already been doing such. But while we were talking, Shauna started typing hers, which was she watched her first episode of Drag Race. Are you a Drag Race person, Kylan? Are you a drag fan?
I okay. I'm not specifically a drag fan. Now, when I had my The other podcast I was on, Geek Watch
Mhm.
One, which is another Buckaroo Banzai reference. But
Okay.
I so our podcast was connected to a local convention called Con on the Cob,
Okay.
and we did host a drag
Wanted
show
to hear that you do that, by the way.
1 year. Like we brought in a drag show 1 year, and I think that was
Sick.
like the year before. Is I think it was the year before. Well, we'll just say it's the year before things changed. That one with the
Okay.
2020. I don't like to actually say
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
but you
yeah.
know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So,
The panini.
yes,
The
yes,
panini. Uh-huh.
the panini.
The pandemic. Oh
Yeah,
no, wait, I didn't want to say that one. I wanted to say the Pangea.
yeah.
Damn it. I fucked
I heard
up.
panini. I heard
Okay,
panini.
good.
I heard.
Yeah, you did.
So
Okay, yeah.
yes,
So you have some exposure to drag, but not
yeah,
like,
yeah. I got exposure. Yes, yes.
sure. So Shauna, what did you think? That was your first drag race episode ever? Did you say
Yeah,
that when we were together?
yeah. I didn't have like a real chance because we kind of were like jumping in, and so
Uh-huh.
like that's where I was
Because
like
we were
I was
talking.
asking like a lot of questions, and so I was like, so wait, and so apparently it was like this episode was like a comedy sketch was like the premise
Mhm.
for the challenge where they all played different roles, and I was like, wait, do they always do sketches? Because I wasn't
No.
sure, like, but like and I'm
No.
like, oh okay, like and it made sense like once I was like, oh, it's just like the nature of this one, and like
Mhm.
Hmm.
so it was really interesting to see because obviously like I've seen many a drag show. It's not like I'm unfamiliar with the conceit. Like I just or even reality TV shows. I just never has been my particular cup of tea. But I honestly I really liked it.
It's
I
so fun.
it absolutely like I get the hook. So we have a local queen from Cleveland, Anya Nerve, and so
Mhm.
that's where like our city specifically is very excited, and there's like a real electricity, and she's crushing it. Like I could
He's crushing
tell
it.
her,
Awesome.
her charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent through the
Mhm.
roof. Like really was
So
given.
it's even bigger because so this is season 17. We haven't had a Cleveland Queen on since season 1 in like the 2008, 2009 when it premiered.
Yeah,
So it's been
yeah.
a very long time since we've had representation and lots of, not that Cleveland is like a smaller city, but of course the major metropolitan areas with booming drag communities are going to send the best of the best.
Right.
Cleveland, we just had a Columbus queen, in season 11, so it was very exciting. And it's I love seeing a Cleveland girl. She's Anya, I don't know if you'll ever listen to it, but we're rooting for you super heavy. You're doing great, and we love to see Black girls crushing it, especially Black girls from Cleveland. Do
Well,
work
Yeah.
on your nerve.
Indeed.
So
I'm excited to watch more. Like I was like, all
awesome.
right, I'm gonna have to catch up, watch the past episodes, get like
oh yeah,
'cause I really
17
like
seasons
jumped
worth.
in at like a no. I did that. We'll start with these 3 or 4 episodes of this season, and we'll go from there.
Okay, good,
But
good.
like at least I feel distinctively good about wanting to do that, and I did not expect that. And I didn't think
Mhm.
I would like dislike it, but I did not expect to be like, oh, I want to go 2 feet in,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like I was very invested.
Well, and it helps to have a Cleveland girl who's named Anya, which makes a wonderful, wonderful segue into arguably the greatest news of 2025, nay, the decade, nay, my life. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is officially getting rebooted, and Sarah Michelle Gellar will be starring not as the primary antagonist or protagonist, but as a support character, which makes it even better because we're going to get a new Slayer and we're going to get the whole Slayer universe, and everything's going to be wonderful again. And I am hooking every single one of my this is all I've got at this point. This is all I've got.
It's been bad. It's
It's
been bad.
it's been a shitty couple of years, and you know what? Seeing Sarah Michelle Gellar, so she confirmed it without confirming it. Okay, so I'm just gonna nerd dump for like 30 seconds. So obviously this has been talked about for any number of years, a reboot, a reboot, a reboot. But it never really gained traction. There was one that was announced before it was even solidified in the middle of the panini. and that was the showrunner was a Black woman who was really excited, and truthfully, I don't even. It just went away, like it just never happened. And then she confirmed that it was being shelved, but now it was reported by Deadline, so this is not just a gossip, like blog.
And Anya herself, Emma Caulfield.
Okay, so that's what I was gonna say next. So, do you see me? I'm losing control of my lens.
I love it. No, this is awesome. I love it.
Yes. So
the neurodivergent is on full display, like just completely.
So obviously, I'm like, okay, I gotta go fact check. Like, someone had sent it to me, and I was like, I'm not believing shit until I see it. And then I went to Sarah Michelle Gellar's page, obviously, first. But before I could even search for Sarah Michelle Gellar's page, I saw that Emma Caulfield, who played Anya Christina Emanuela Jenkins, or Anyanka, she posted, oh my God, yay! Thank you. What a wonderful gift you're giving me. Thank you. I do accept that. I do accept that next piece of Buffy merch. So Emma Caulfield screenshot the news and post like it's happening with like official confirmation. And then I went to SMG's page and she was wearing a pair of pajamas that have sushi on them that are referred to in season 4 episode. God, I'm gonna swing and guess 8, but it is 14. And that episode is called Goodbye Iowa. And she gives a rousing speech and she stands up and she says, "This would have been a lot more motivating if I wasn't wearing my yummy sushi pajamas." And so her posting the yummy sushi pajamas was like the most informal, formal confirmation that you could get that this is really fucking happening. And I am simply losing my mind.
We are so back. And I love it.
Now,
So I have questions.
Yes, please.
I am a bit of a fan.
Okay, good.
I'm more of an Angel fan. Like
that's fine.
I watched
love
all of Angel like I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
Now the interesting thing is that David Boreanaz's SEAL Team series has ended, and he's been kind of coy about what he's doing next.
Old ass vampires.
I'm just saying.
He does look really, really good.
Yes.
Like, he looks really good. James Marsters looks old. Like, James Marsters looks like an old white guy. David Boreanaz has a little bit of spice in him, so, not in the racist kind of way, like in the color.
I know.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what? I'm not doing great with my social cues tonight, perhaps because I just overloaded all of my my masking skills. But yeah, he has aged really, really nicely. Wow. Okay, so you are a fan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shauna, please proceed with your questions.
Okay, so it's been called a reboot, but it does. I'm wondering, is it going to be a reboot, a continuation, or a reimagining? Because I feel like you cannot. Is it a reboot where the season, it's just a completely separate continuity, and it's now, instead of Giles, it's going to be this former Slayer, because some reason there now can be multiple Slayers, or maybe if she's still playing Buffy Summers, because that's obviously is this like an alternate universe where she gets to age and then is coming back in? Or is it going to be a continuation where all of these many Slayers, because spoiler alert for this 20-year plus ending of a series, but
right.
All of the Slayers across the world were activated, and
yes,
so it ended up being, and so now with that,
there's more Slayers.
But then do they dwindle? Or are they getting hunted? Now there's only one left, and it's SMG and
so
Buffy. Like,
shout out to Slayerfest 98, one of the other podcasts that inspired me to make a podcast. They did a special episode about it because obviously their namesake is Buffy season 3 episode Homecoming. And Same. One of them, top 10 for sure. But they were talking, apparently the news that exists that has been talked about in the circles is that it's a continuation, and that Buffy will be playing a guidance counselor at a school where the new Slayer is. And in it, apparently, like, the first episode, you're not going to know who the Slayer is until, like, that's the big reveal or something like that. Kind of like the episode Potential, where there's the misdirect that Dawn is supposed to be the potential and not Amanda, I think, is the character.
So I think, and this is a very easy prediction, and I think it's going to be true, and I hope it's true. The new Slayer is not going to be a white girl.
I think that's fair to say.
That is like, I know that's a real easy, like, I'm like calling my shot and it's a single, but like I feel still pretty good about it just the same.
Yeah, it's a slam dunk.
Yeah.
Did Kylan, did you listen to Slayers, the audiobook?
I did not. No.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. It scratches an itch. But the main character is a black girl named Indira. So my thoughts and theories thus far are that, perhaps they'll pick up Indira and bring her in. Like, she seemed to be, a really good fit as a voice actor. I can't remember. I know she's from something else. Like, I know the actress who plays her, but it's escaping me right now. But if I'm being honest, I kind of wish we were getting an animated series, because you can do so much more. So for those that don't know, there is an abandoned, like, 13-minute pilot, not 13 minutes, it's like less than 10 minutes, of the original almost made Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the animated series, that featured the voices of Allison Hannigan and Nicholas Brendan. Like, it was official. And in the very first, yes?
It looks very, very similar to the Clerks cartoon.
It does.
Just as the animation style is, like, you would think that, like, is a continuation in that, like, 2000s like, animation.
Also,
just to bring it back to this
outline of characters, like, what was it called? Clone High. Like, it also had the animation style of Clone High, if I remember what was that.
Now,
So
go ahead, then please. I have a question when you get done. Go ahead, sure. But then I have a question for you.
So in the very first episode, like, there's a dragon. So, like, they can do so much more with it animated, and we wouldn't have to deal with the old ass vampires of it all. We wouldn't have to figure out how to fix that. And most importantly, like, Emma Caulfield has MS, and I don't know how, like, managed it is.
Well, she's also dead.
True.
But, like, they could just bring her back as a ghost, like, go full Agatha on it, and just be like, true. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, she does become a ghost in the comics, which are all right behind me in the dark.
Actually, comics. Me too. Now, thanks to you.
Yes.
But
yes. Okay, so go ahead with your comment.
Okay,
question.
All right. So at the end of Angel, like, there's the big apocalypse. Where the last thing you see is Angel and the crew, then the gang's in there, and then all these demons, and I think there's a dragon that's all kind of coming for them. Then that's the last scene. Then I know it's continued in the comics. I don't know if the comics are considered canon. My question is this: is the ending of Angel considered for this, or is it how Buffy ended?
Well, and that's where I kind of want this might shock you, but I'm a nerd. And so I used to do policy debate in high school. It's actually where I met my spouse. But there was a kind of argument you could make called a permutation. And it was like where you combined the original plan with then another plan that you do. And you would say, because the saying was the perm solves best. And I think that the perm solves best here as well, because I think you both do a continuation and a soft reboot. I think you do not need to stick to canon that does not fit your story just for the sake of it being one continuous story, because
Sure.
people who care aren't going like if oh you changed it. Well, if it works better, like it doesn't have to, it can still be set in a like theoretical universe and just
Right.
let people deal with that. Like if anything, the Marvel movies have really taught us that we can live with some fungibility and everything. Like you can
Yes,
work
exactly.
through it. It's fine.
I really think that, so, the whole thing was like that apocalypse in the comics is LA specific. And so, LA to be saved gets like, I think LA gets transported to a hell dimension,
Right.
and like that's how the rest of the world is like saved from being an apocalypse. That is the one thing that every single time I watch these, I'm like, what the fuck? Like this is so this is only happening in the Sunnydale zip code. There's no other issues in the entire world related. We know that there's a Hellmouth in Cleveland, before either of you correct me. We know that there's a Hellmouth in Cleveland, but we never hear about what's going on over there. So the fact that there was an apocalypse in LA at the end of Angel, to me, doesn't necessarily dictate anything that needs to happen
Okay.
in this. However, one of the things that they said on Slayerfest 98 that I thought was really interesting was how cool would it be if we get this like retrospective of what happened, and it includes like Willow teleporting all of the Slayers to LA, and that's how they beat back that apocalypse, is Angel investigations, and a bunch of a Slayer crew get dispatched to take out these fucking demons, and that would be really sick.
I would like that actually. I mean, and now I would say as far as the Hellmouth in Cleveland goes, there is another fandom that confirms the Hellmouth in Cleveland,
Oh,
Supernatural. So I'm pretty sure that
Yes.
Sam and Dean, they
you
spend a lot of
mean
time in
Buffy for
Ohio.
Boys?
Yeah,
Buffy for Boys is
yeah.
Supernatural.
I
So
mean, I'd
Sam and
argue that
Dean
not
spent a lot of
necessarily.
time in Ohio, a lot of time. So and they've even been to Cleveland.
Yes.
So I
Joss
would
Whedon
say
loves Ohio.
yeah, so I would say Sam and Dean probably are handling whatever. Well, okay, I know they're
Mm.
dead now, but when they were alive, I'm pretty sure they were
I mean,
handling
they've
whatever's
died
going
and
on.
lived multiple times. They're much worse than Buffy.
That's
Yeah,
Like,
true.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, like they go to
Fun fact:
hell
I've
and they
never
come
seen a
back.
single episode of Supernatural. I
I
keep giving it a try. I know
I
I
think
would.
the original Eric Kripke 5 seasons, I think it's well worth it, in my
It
opinion.
is.
Because I don't like the modern, this is like my soapbox, but I cannot stand the modern 10 to 12 episode run for 40-minute shows. But I also think that the 23 episode seasons
Yeah,
are they're
we don't need
cumbersome.
those anymore. We
They're
can't do that.
difficult, and you know, I think a 16, 17 is like a sweet
The sweet
spot where you
spot.
still get filler
Mhm.
episodes, because filler episodes are important.
Right.
There, you have to establish a status quo in order to make the change of the status quo mean anything.
Right.
But yeah, so to heck with this 12 episode run. Give shows more episodes. Give
Yeah.
shows multiple seasons in contracts.
Yes.
A
Yes.
future episode is going to be shows that should have gotten more than one season,
Agreed.
and like that is a big sticking point for me. I hate it, but anyways, so yeah, very excited for Buffy.
So, which also dovetails nicely into another reboot. We just got our first teaser trailer launch for Fantastic Four.
Yes.
Kylan, first
Yes.
thoughts.
Okay. Here, I have thoughts on this, and here's why. So
Okay.
I know. So you're talking now. I've been reading Marvel comics for over 50 years. Fantastic Four was the first comic that I actually had a subscription to. Okay,
Okay,
Yeah.
back when that was a thing,
Mhm.
and I've always now as I've gotten older. Okay, so two things: as I've gotten older, and as I got into pulp fiction, my feeling was that the Fantastic Four are science heroes who happen to have superpowers. So,
Love that.
but nobody's really honestly the closest that they've come to that, if you can find it, is the movie that was done. Oh gosh, I can't think of the dude's name. Oh, the one from back in the 90s that
Yeah, I was gonna say the '90s one.
yeah,
Never
yeah,
seen it.
which Mighty Marvel Geeks did interview that entire cast. Probably one of our favorite episodes. So if you want to look for it,
Well,
if
that's
you
cool.
want to look for an episode, that's a great standalone. It's that one.
Hell yeah.
All right,
Okay,
so
noted.
Roger Corman, that guy. All right,
Okay.
so
Mm,
that being said, watching this trailer, I feel like that's what's happened. Number one, they got the feel that they're a family.
Hmm.
Number two, I get the feeling that we're seeing that these are scientists. These are people who operate with next level technology. I mean, the Baxter building looks like a Jetson type of
Yeah.
place, right? So I'm so excited for this, and we got Herbie. Herbie. Now I will.
Right.
Here's the thing about Herbie. Back mid to late '70s, the Fantastic Four had a cartoon on CBS, but there was some kind of licensing issue yet again with the Human Torch, because the Human Torch was actually an old Marvel character that they reworked so that Johnny
It's
Storm.
like Chris Evans.
So he was like, so the original Human Torch was this robot that was around the same time as Captain America, but then they brought him back as Johnny Storm,
Isn't doesn't that somehow connect to the Vision too?
sort of.
Like
I think
his body was
yeah. I thought
Johnny was the Human Torch.
there was something I have to go back because they're like they play fast and loose when it comes to Vision and
Right.
his but so
Yeah. Ooh. Sorry,
yes.
I'm interrupting your flow. Continue.
Okay, so Herbie was brought in to replace Johnny. So the Fantastic Four for the longest time were Thing and Sue and Reed, and then Herbie. Now, when I was a kid, I didn't like Herbie because I wanted Johnny, but the
Yeah.
cartoon had Herbie. And I have to admit, as I gotten older, Herbie grew on me. So when I saw him in that trailer, 9-year-old Kylan was like, ah! So yeah, so I'm happy. I'm jazzed. I might put this on my countdown app. Uh,
Pretty good.
I mean, there's no mic too. I'm gonna do it. So yeah.
Yeah.
well,
I'm go ahead, John. Sorry.
Oh, I really liked how it really felt like they get it in a way that the previous two movie franchise iterations, they seem to just kind of miss the mark. Like
Hmm.
I thought the way like both the sweet kind thing with where it was like also just like that bit of an attitude with and help
Hmm.
no or gosh I called him Helper because they made me so think of the Venture Brothers and
Hmm.
obviously Helper and Herbie are analogs to each other and being and that kind of retro futurismness that they both have.
Yes.
And
I'm
Yes.
so
excited for that aesthetic specifically.
absolutely. But I loved when Sue was talking about how, Ben's always been our rock. And like I'm like, because of course, like I really love the connection between the classical elements
Hmm.
and then also the connection between embodying them as people. That, the thing Ben is the rock, Johnny is the hothead, Sue's the woman, so naturally she's invisible, while Reed is overextended everywhere because of all of his many obligations and is just a little too busy to notice about any of
Yes.
it as much as he should.
And that was something that was in the Corman series, in the Corman movie,
Sure.
and nobody picked that up anywhere else. And I was like, that was something that okay, get true. It's corny. They held off all their effects for the one time Johnny turns into a Human Torch. Yeah, but I will say that was like a level of insight into those characters that I was like, that totally made sense to me, and it kind of personalized those characters for me because all of a sudden I'm like, well, all these are just random things. Like, oh no, he becomes,
How
you know,
random, yeah.
they're all random, but no, it's not. It's almost. It also is like, okay, we know this is supposed to be some cosmic event, but what does that
Hmm.
mean? All of a sudden,
Right.
cosmic is on two levels now.
Hmm.
So that's all I got to say
Cosmic
about that.
in Yeah, no, I never really thought about that. Like cosmic in terms of like the fate of it all. Like we talk about, cosmic events from like, the astrological part of it, but when we talk about the cosmos, we're talking about the heavens. We're talking about fate itself. That is
Yes.
fascinating. I never really put that together, nor did I put together the four elements. And I
Mhm.
have to tell you, I just looked at the poster for the unreleased Fantastic Four movie from 1994, and the like subtitle, the words on it, um, part muscle, part elastic, part fire, part invisible. Together, it's clobbering time. Who wrote that? Who wrote that? Let me beat their ass.
I think
Like
he's dead. I think he's dead. So
he does honestly for writing that those four sentences. Good. I'm glad. No, I'm kidding.
you know,
R.I.P. I guess, but that sucked. That's so bad. No wonder they didn't release it. Anybody
you,
that saw it would be like, that doesn't make any fucking sense, guy.
you should go if you think that's bad. You should go and see if you can find the Captain America movie from I think it had them in 1990, 1991. Yeah, if you thought that was
With
bad, that
white or with white Nick Fury, is that the one?
no, that was a separate move. Now you talking about the one with that was
What's his name?
Nick Fury Agent of
Hasselhoff?
Shield with Hasselhoff. That was their
Hasselhoff. Yes.
that
Yes.
was the Marvel or Fox Marvel's attempt at a Nick Fury TV series, which I was
Right.
low key hoping for because I'm a huge Nick Fury fan.
Yeah.
But all I got was
Obviously,
that movie.
White Nick Fury's gone forever, but with that being said, Hasselhoff is a good choice for like back
Oh
then.
Yes,
Like
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Don't
When
hassle
we
Nick
got
Fury.
yeah, that's and which no, he had thoughts when Sam Jackson got the role, but I'm like, okay, dude, whatever.
Oh no, I don't want to
Go
hear
back to
what
the
David
beach. It's all good.
Hasselhoff's thought are on race
unfortunately,
bending characters.
The Ultimates exists, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is good
Yeah, yeah. The Ultimates exist. The Ultimates always exist.
because
Yes.
The other one that I really want to find that I feel like some nerd out there, if you're listening, create a online repository for all of the defunct Marvel things that exist because I need to see the Generation X movie with what's her name as Emma Frost. I
Yes.
need to see it.
I
What is
saw
her
that.
name?
I saw that too. I remember it. Um, yeah, and I actually I had it on VHS somewhere.
Oh my god.
I did, but you know what? And that probably is in my
It's
basement somewhere. But it's VHS, so it probably is not even
yeah,
played.
exactly.
But
She's
yeah,
played by Finola Hughes, who plays um uh the mom on Charmed. So Finola
that's
Hughes
right.
also real icon girl. Um so last sort of, nerdy tie-in, there's a potential, and this is just something that we were having good dialogue about and it felt like something to talk about on the podcast, which was uh, the actress
Schaefer,
Hunter Schafer, who is a trans woman, is allegedly being talked
Euphoria,
about
yeah.
from Euphoria. She's allegedly being talked about as a potential actress to play Mystique. And first glance, it's like, that's cool. That's kind of interesting. But then, Sean and I were kind of like, digging down into the other sort of like commentary of it. So, like, do you want to share kind of where we were going with it, Shauna?
Yeah, and so on one hand, I'm like, I think she would crush it. I think that is
Mm-hmm.
a really great choice in a lot of ways, but also a actor, such a trope about trans women is that we are deceiving others via our appearance. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of Mystique's whole thing.
It
And
really
Hmm.
I
is.
think, there's a lot of subtext there and a lot of weight to, oh, this person who can play, who is going to be multiple genders played by a trans woman, is I think that it leads to a certain, like I said, deception. It leads to that an inauthenticity to who we are, that we are not really that we are. And I do wonder, I think that commentary is going to exist if this does get happen. And maybe,
Hmm.
Yeah.
at the end of the day though, it's so hard for trans actors to find roles because there are a lot of great ones, and it is not like, and those roles are drying up. And I
Yeah.
think you're seeing that, especially as so many studios are pulling things with any amount of diversity. So
Right.
if she does get cast, like, I'm not going to be like, how dare they? Because at the end of the day, you know what? She's getting work, and that's better than
We
nothing.
love that.
But I can't help but ignore some of the other background to it, and I think that
We have to
there's
get
some
ahead of
real
the
unintentional
conversation.
commentary.
Yes, we have to get ahead of the conversation before the transphobic piece of shit, like fundamentalist, like
Yes.
toxic gatekeeping nerds get a hold of it, because they will lean into those same comments but use them as like explicit insults, or like use it to, you know, denigrate trans people and trans women specifically. And then, you know, part of that other side of like the coin is like the so much of the ire and hatred towards the trans community is that trans people have reminded everyone that like it's all fucking made up and you can actually do whatever you want as
Right.
long as it makes you happy.
Right.
And that includes anything from how you identify your gender to how you express said gender to how you love another person of whatever gender. And trans people are a reminder that like true self-love is actually figuring out which parts of, you know, the made up bullshit you want to hold on to and which parts you want to say, this is not for me and I don't care. And there's also something about Mystique, who can literally be, you know, depending like which medium, whatever she wants, whoever she wants,
Right.
you know, like Kylan, you know, just in general, are X-Men obviously big fan, but is that like resonating in any way? Like, you
No,
know, what's
it totally
that?
is, and and you actually you laid that out in a way that I had never considered it, because like for
Sure.
me, like for me, I was coming at it from, you know, if a trans actress actor is the best, no, best one for that role,
Yeah.
I'm all for that. But at the same time, I never considered it in that context, because, you know, Mystique has posed as Senator. Oh God, what's the guy's name? The one that,
Kelly.
yeah. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
Senator Kelly 1 minute, and then next minute they're the White Queen. You know, so
Right.
and nobody says boo. Nobody raises a
Right.
stink about that, right? Uh, and I agree that, you know, it's important to, you know, get ahead of that. Um, because, you know, the thing is, and I'm all for, I am all about, I want to see as much representation as possible. And I'm a huge action fan. Like, I love action movies. Okay, one of my
Yeah.
favorites from the last several years is the 355. Um, exactly. See, it was this
Never heard of it.
movie. It was a movie with starred Jessica Chastain, and there's about four of the women, and I'm terrible with names,
Yeah,
but
yeah. I remember this.
and now here, this has a true historical connection, because the during the Revolutionary War, there was a spy ring called the Culper Ring that
Mm.
operated. One of the people that provided information directly from the British intelligence officer was a slave that was a part of this ring. Nobody knew her name. She was just found. Her code in the book was Agent 355.
Oh,
So that's the reason why this series, or like this movie, they chose that as their name.
very
The
cool.
was the 355. Yeah. So I would love to see. I would love to see an all trans mercenary unit. I would be
We
there for that. I'm serious. Like I
just
want.
need like a trans-led action star. Like that's, if this is what gives us our trans, like a trans representation as a bad bitch. Like
Yes.
my biggest concern is please do not water down Mystique. Like
No.
Rebecca Romaine did not slide on her bare pussy on the ground for people to act like
I
Mystique
gotta
is
go
a
back and
bad
watch that.
girl. Yep.
But
Slides on it.
and that's true. Like, we need we need to see that trans actors can do anything. They can do action.
Right. That's the whole
They
point.
don't just have to do drama or what. You know what? Throw a
They
fucking
don't have to just
grenade.
be a
I
victim.
mean, well, and I think there's
Right in the
something to that
face.
too. They
Yes.
don't have to just play trans characters.
No, they
Right.
I
don't.
think that
No,
is
they don't.
really where. When was the last time you've seen a trans actor play a character
Cis person.
that is not explicitly that
Right.
is not explicitly canonically trans. That is just
Right.
a
Exactly.
woman, and at
Right.
the end of the day, because it doesn't matter whether she's cis or trans, she just is. And I think that
Exactly.
is the future that we need more of.
We do.
Just like
Interestingly.
Bring
going
that
to what we're
on.
saying.
Bring that on,
Yeah.
because I would be there watching all the grenades being thrown and all the ninja kicks being made. I will be there
Right.
for it. I'm
Because
just
the
saying.
girls are gonna girl.
Yes, they
Like,
are.
please be real. You want to see a hair flip? Please. Please. Which also reminded me, Michaela Joel, or Michaela Rodriguez, MJ Rodriguez,
Mm.
from Pose and many other things, is on the show Loot, and they have never once addressed her being trans, like the character
Okay.
being trans.
Mhm.
So I am assuming she is cis. Like, they have made comments suggesting that she is cis. Like, I can't remember, but there was something that they said that was like getting a period or something. Like, I don't know if that's what it was, but like something that suggested that this character is cis. And I'm obsessed with that because I also never really clocked. I thought, like, I wonder if this character is trans, but at the same time, it's like, that's kind of what we should always do, because
Right.
that is what cis privilege is we just assume everyone is cisgender. And to just, it's kind of like my whole thing is now I'm just assuming everyone is gay until proven otherwise. Like, we can also assume everyone's trans until proven otherwise. Like,
Right.
people are so invested in, anyways, okay. The other thing that we just have to throw out there, because we're talking about transness, is fuck the NCAA for yielding to the executive order, keeping specifically trans women
Yeah.
out of K through collegiate sports. Get a
Yeah.
fucking job, you losers. Fuck the NCAA. Cowards.
I saw that I saw that this afternoon, and I'm just like, and actually I looked at my wife, and I'm like, why is it that this is specifically women's sports? Why is that? And then that was a whole separate discussion. And I don't understand it.
Well,
I don't.
because women are weak and bad at sports, obviously. That is the
Right.
only, but that is, and that's just it is. That is the actual assumption that so many Republicans make, because there was actually a study that was done that showed that the people most likely to have negative feelings about trans women in women's athletics also have generally negative attitudes towards women athletes and are more likely to think that they should look and act a certain way.
Yeah.
There's
And there's something about, like, in the same vein that, women need to be protected from something externally, and like that relies on the idea that, one, trans people are predatory, and two, that like there's somehow going to be this massive disadvantage. But the other part of it all is like, that's your only focus, because, to your point, women are to be protected. They are weak. And if we can target an enemy...
That's not my point. Let's just...
Sorry. To
point of
the
order.
recognized earlier. Good. Thank you, Shauna. Before Real Hot Nerd Shit is a misogynistic...
They get canceled on International Women in Sports Day. Great.
and I will tell you,
Yes.
I'm a martial artist, and I have two stories that one from when I was in college, and one from, let's call it maybe 10 years ago now. So when I was in college, we had started a karate club, and so I was actually one of the people to kind of help teach and run the club. And so we were going over like the techniques, like you've seen like if somebody grabs your wrist, how to break the hold, right?
Yeah.
So I'm paired up with this woman that's she's an aerobics instructor. She actually she actually helped teach one of the aerobics classes on campus, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be nice to her. I don't want to try to rip her arm off. So I try to the first one, and I'm like, oh, okay, so I get it. She's trying to, and I'm like, okay. So then I kind of ramp it up a little more, and I still vice grip, and then I think it took me like maybe 4 or 5 times to finally break that hold. That was and so she was no, she's this tiny little. Now I was not saying I was big and muscular, but I was kind of swole. So I was like, okay, that was a wake up call for 21-year-old Kylan. Now, if we
Yeah.
fast forward several years to like the mid, I don't know, 2013, 2014, my wife had given me a gift. She gave me 10 Krav Maga courses. All right,
Oh, cool.
we did this thing that was called basically where we would square up with our other person, and the idea was for me to try and touch the other person's shoulder, and for them try and touch my shoulder, and we have to bob, weave, block, or whatever. And so I was paired up with the instructor's mother. Okay. So this woman, I would say she had to be in her mid, maybe late 60s, but she's spry, right? So we're squaring up, we're going around, and she tries to get me, and I come around, and as I come around, I legit clocked her in the jaw, right? And I didn't mean to, but it was like,
Somebody's mother in the jaw.
and I'm like, I said, I'm so sorry. And this woman looked me dead in the eye, and she goes, I shit you not. There's no apologies in Krav Maga. Froze my shit. Like I just thought this woman is about to fuck me up. I'm gonna walk out of here looking like Daniel when he first met the Cobra Kai and got his ass beat. I didn't. But I tell you what, that's the first and
You're like,
last time I clocked that old woman.
you're a 68-year-old.
I'm just
Oh
and
my
so and all of that to say, you can say
Make assumptions.
that you can make assumptions, but
Mhm.
what happens when you assume,
You have a
and
good
You get
chance of
your
being
ass beat.
wrong.
Yeah.
yes. So
Yeah. You know what happens when you assume a 68-year-old woman looks at you and says, "There's no apologies in Krav Maga." Like,
yeah, I, I'm
no
just
one
saying.
wants that.
Nobody wants that. Like, I'm like that woman would have beat me, and I wouldn't be able to say shit about it. Just saying.
Yep.
So and that's
Yeah.
all that stuff that's coming out of DC. That's all about control and bullshit, anyway.
Yeah,
So
of course. Well, and just
and hey,
dehumanizing as many of us as
And
possible when they
their
start rounding
tactic
us up.
can
it's
It's
overwhelm.
pretty straightforward. It's pretty straightforward. So, a brief hiatus from the woes of the world. When we started talking about sort of like the next thing that we wanted to do, I really wanted to rewatch the Kevin Smith movies. Sean and I have been talking about it for a minute, and like so I just really can't wait to get to Mallrats and Jay and Silent Bob. But we had to start proper. We had to start with
Mhm.
Clerks.
mhm.
And go ahead, John. What were you gonna say?
Oh, and like, well, because I this past year saw the really amazing documentary, which I can't recommend enough, called Chasing Amy. And it is so good and such a sweet love letter. And if you like Kevin Smith at all, you will love him after this because that man is a sweetheart. Took this young director under his wing and helped guide him in a really like wonderful mentorship way that was just very heartwarming.
Mhm.
And I like, and it's such a good story and look at like the gender politics and the
Yeah.
sexuality politics of
Yes,
the
yes.
time period, and then it's like impact. I cannot recommend it enough. And so I'm looking forward to talking about Chasing Amy as well. So I have to like,
Yes.
I
On
think that
the
was
on
what
the
really
team.
got me into Kevin Smith in the year 2024 to 25.
Yeah. So you're a big Kevin Smith fan, Kylan.
Me,
Sorry.
yeah. And it was so the thing was like when Clerks first came out, it was sort of on my radar, but I didn't get to see it until I met my wife, and she was really into it. Now, when she and I first met, we talked about how much we love Kevin Smith, and we came up with this whole what would be the nerdiest road trip that you could do. Part of that road trip would be going to Red Bank, New Jersey, to go to Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, right? So, several years later, after bills were paid off and we were in a much better financial place, we decided to finally do this road trip. So we we get to Red Bank, New Jersey, and and then there's Jay's Silent Bob Secret Stash. So we're just so excited, and we get there, but there's this line. So we got there before they opened, so it was fine, maybe about 5 or 10 minutes. So we're standing there in line, and this guy comes out. He says, "Oh, we're filming Comic Book Men today." He said, "Would you want to be on an episode?" We're like, "Yeah." And I was wearing my T-shirt from Mighty Marvel Geeks, and so no, yeah, Mighty Marvel Geeks. So he said, "Well, you can't wear that T-shirt," so I had to flip it, which is fine. And so we were like, if you can find uh Comic Book Man somewhere. Um, I think it has to be. I believe it's in the first season, maybe the second season. She and I are in the back going through comics while this woman was trying to I get a price on a stack of comics that she
Cool.
had gotten from a relative. So after we did that, the church that's in Dogma
Mm.
at the end of Dogma was down the
Yeah.
street. So we went to this arcade and hung out at the arcade. Then we went by the church just so we could see the church and everything. And it was awesome, man. Like it was kind of cool because it and I don't think we made it by the store. I think the store was gone by that point. I
The
don't
convenience store.
Yeah, the convenience store. I don't remember going by
Mm.
that. But yeah, so she and I watched we watched all the movies. We watched the Clerks cartoon.
Hmm.
Underrated. Um,
Yes, it is. It
has some
is.
funny moments.
And I think we even got some of the Clerks comics. Oh, and what was that one movie that was the first appearance of Jay? For the first appearance of Silent Bob. It was before Clerks.
Oh,
Um,
why am I?
it was a black and white movie, and like all you see is Silent Bob at a party smoking a cigarette, and then walks off. And he's like Kevin Smith is there for all of like 5 seconds, and that was like the first recorded appearance of Silent Bob. We even found that movie, and I forget the name of it. I can't think of the name of it.
Is it drawing files?
Maybe Drawing
I'm looking.
Flies.
I'm drawing drawing flies.
Yes,
Yes.
that was it. Drawing Flies. Yes, that was
Okay.
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's credited as Silent Bob in the film. Jason Mewes also appears, but as a different character.
Yeah.
Smith's character wears the same leather outfit he wears in Mallrats.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, it's cool because like whenever, especially like whenever there was a new movie, we're like there was no I never we there was no convincing like could you watch this with me? No, it's like no, we're watching it. So no, we're big Kevin Smith fans in the house. Although I will say I have yet to watch the Kevin Smith voiceover of Buckaroo Banzai. He did do a special recording of Buckaroo Banzai where he does a commentary, and I want to watch it just because he's a big fan of the movie like me, probably bigger,
Yeah.
But yeah, so
That's why. So, I mean, I don't even remember. Mallrats was my first Kevin Smith movie, and
okay,
probably the one that I have, the like the deepest, uh, like original connection to. Jay
hmm
and Silent Bob was the movie that I was like, this is perfection. Like, this is so fucking funny. Everything about it, and I really didn't even know about probably like the connection other than just the name.
right,
And so, I went out of my way to see Clerks, and I had seen Dogma. Actually, I don't know that I've seen Dogma all the way through because I feel like it was one of those movies that was just always on Comedy Central. And so
hmm
I've seen most of it, but I'm pretty sure I've seen all of it. But yeah, my sister like bought Mallrats because she was basically a Mallrat.
Mhm.
And it's also wild to think that there's an entire generation that just doesn't know what a Mallrat is.
Yeah,
Uh,
don't tell me that you're right.
yeah, because no
Uh,
one goes to malls anymore.
no.
But yeah, Shauna, what's your origin story with Kevin Smith?
So I've been a big fan of Kevin Smith since high school. I hung around at my local comic book shop, and it was all very steeped in the Mallrats, Clerks, and Chasing Amy, which had a lot of personal applicability to me in high school, especially and I'll get into this more in the Chasing Amy episode, but as my situation, on appearance really seemed to mirror that story in so many ways. And so it was very like, oh my gosh, this like really nerdy, I love the dialogue, the banter. Like I've always loved a good banter. And I
Mhm.
think that's what ultimately led me to Joss Whedon in that same kind of way. And I just have had such a love and appreciation for these movies. They're just all-time favorites of mine. Like I watching them, realizing just how much is still so quotable. There's still so much the music in these movies is they're just, you know, movie nerd made these movies in such a
Mhm.
Yes.
love lettery way, and you can just so tell the kind of care and concern, the passion that really shows through in them, that I think is
Mhm.
why even in their rough spots they still hold up in the grand scheme still so well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so like I don't remember who I was talking to, but they're a nerd and they like didn't know who Kevin Smith was, and I was like, it's or like they knew the name but they didn't know sort of like the relevance of it, and I just it's so meta, and that's the thing that I
Mhm.
think I like about his movies is that it's also commentary on like nerd. It's largely commentary on like nerd culture
Mhm.
in a lot of ways, and it's also got sort of the social lens to it. So we'll talk about uh, the slut shaming around Dante's girlfriend sucking 37 dicks, and like how it was very much so like who fucking cares? It's you don't get to be a hypocrite about how many people I have sex with, because you've also had sex with a number of people that I don't like. So anyways, we'll dive into to all of that in a second, but um yeah, I'm also very happy to know that like Kevin Smith hasn't eventually just turned out to be an asshole. Like one of the only ones we can still just thank goodness, Kevin Smith,
Yes.
don't
Yes.
fuck up, please.
No.
We've lost
Can't
literally
deal with that.
so we we've lost so much. We've lost so many,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you can be our white savior.
I mean, I tell you, Kevin. So like Kevin Smith, let me see. At one point, he wrote for Green Arrow, the comic, and I loved because Green Arrow is this really left leaning billionaire, right? And yeah, you can see Kevin's politics all through that run. And then I'll be honest with you, once Kevin stopped writing, I stopped reading it.
I
But
have the
then
exact same experience with Green Arrow. I also read the Kevin Smith run and then stopped. But I
yeah,
have
that's
an appreciation for Green Arrow that led me to the CW Arrowverse and
Yeah.
yes,
because of the Kevin Smith. And honestly, it's why I love the character Daredevil, because his Guardian Angel comic book that
yes,
story really spoke to high school me. And so that was where like the Kevin Smithness of it all really spoke to me personally. That is like one of my favorite Daredevil stories.
yeah. And I'm a hardcore Daredevil fan, and to
Same.
see and the way he handled Daredevil, I was just like, there was never a question. I was on board for it. And plus, you know what? And was it Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back? You get what a Daredevil movie would look like for all 5 seconds, and I had so much hope. And then Ben Affleck happened, and I'm not going to talk about that. I got
Look, and
feelings.
it's why I still have a bit of a soft spot for that movie is because of Ben Affleck's Kevin Smith connection, and that
Yes.
Ben Affleck is a nerd himself who genuinely liked and appreciated Daredevil. Like, it sucks that
Yes.
his movie sucked, but it wasn't for lack of caring, which, you know what,
No,
you could do
Right.
no,
worse than.
it's poorly written, but you know what? Great choice on Kingpin. Great choice on Kingpin.
Yes.
Michael Clark Duncan was so
Yes.
good. Like, and Vincent D'Onofrio probably probably
Solid
better, but for
Kingpin.
the moment, like
Yes.
the physically imposing nature of Kingpin,
Mhm.
Yes.
and you're absolutely correct.
Yes.
Perfect, wonderful choice.
So yeah, no, because I don't know. It's like you said, Kevin Smith. He's still, you know, he's he he's a good. He's just a good person all around. He's not good because it's good for money. He's not good
Right.
because it's
Yeah,
good for PR. I
yeah.
Right.
think that he's one of those few people who operate at that level where what you see is what you get. I mean,
Sure.
you see
A nerd's nerd.
a nerd's nerd,
Nerd's nerd. Mm-hmm.
and the stuff that he does like to help Jason, because you know Jason has issues, and he's
Oh
always there
boy.
for Jason. And I'm like, you know what, how many of us have friends that we could say that about, that whenever if we got into some shit wherever it is, that we have a friend that we know is going to always be there no matter what.
Couple of those. Feel a lot, and the people that know what that feels like know how rare it is to truly
Hmm.
be able to be like, if I picked up the phone right now, there's a list of 4 people that I could call.
Hmm.
That also, vice versa, those 4 people could call me, and I would pick it up and be like, "All right, well, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I guess got to go figure out how I'm going to help this person." Like one of
Yes,
them,
yes.
Shauna. Yeah, I don't know a lot about the Jason Lee stuff. I think Shauna just kind of blew my wig back and told me that he's a Scientologist recently, so that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, skateboarding Scientologist, but but also is very charismatic and is very good
Yes,
at his his characters
A
of like
lot of
Brody.
Scientologists are.
I love
Well,
Brody.
that's
I
fair.
do love Brody. You know.
Oh my
Is
gosh,
that the Mallrats character?
that's Mallrats. Yeah,
Yeah,
Brody
Yeah.
Bruce. Yeah,
yeah. No, let's cue the
So,
music. Matt,
oh,
Matt,
go ahead.
Matt.
Sorry.
No, you remember the one says, "Let's cue the music." He ends up like hosting the Tonight Show.
hmm
Yeah.
Or is it? Oh, yes, yes,
Suzanne.
yes. After he hosts the dating game show, right?
Yes.
Yes, I haven't watched it in so long, but that just came flooding back at the end. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, Suzanne by
So
Weezer playing. The
one of the other things, okay, and I'm going to say this, and then after that, let's jump into the little plot synopsis, and we'll talk our way through. But in my search for confirmation of the Buffy reboot, of course, I had to go see if Allison Hannigan and Nicholas Brendan had posted anything, because they both have Instagrams. Allison has not, but Nicholas Brendan started posting again, and he's been posting these reels. For those that don't know, Nicholas Brendan played Xander Harris, who, after Buffy has aired, and we have all, I'm sure people were critiquing him at the time of airing. For those of us that watched Buffy as younger people and didn't necessarily see him for what he was, he's a piece of shit. Xander sucks. He is the proxy. He's supposed to be the everyman, but he is the everyman that Joss Whedon sees himself as, which is unfortunately a disgusting human being who thinks that he has a right to, police women's bodies, what they do, blah, blah, blah. But his best friend's the Slayer, so he's got to be a good guy. No, he's a toxic piece of shit. But unfortunately, Nicholas Brendan's life post Buffy never really seemed to get any better, and has had a number of issues with like very public substance abuse issues, where he's like high on drugs or drunk and is
Mm.
terrorizing hotel rooms. He was trying to really ride on the Buffy fame for a while, but was never like getting invited to conventions because he was a monster, probably because of Joss Whedon in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, I did look at his Instagram to see, and he's been posting these reels of fireside chats, and he does not look well. In the most recent one, he has like a huge bruise across his face, and that was like, it would have been like over the weekend. His voice just he constantly sounds like he's fucked up a little bit. So
Mm.
I don't think we're getting Xander back.
I mean,
Which
is his brother available?
his
Yeah.
twin brother.
How's
Yeah,
he
well,
doing? Just,
my other hope that I didn't mention for Buffy is give me fucking Charisma Carpenter. Give me justice for Cordelia. Yeah, I know technically she died too. Joss Whedon killed every single woman character outside of Buffy and Willow. And that makes me hate him even more for it.
That's right. Yeah, she got killed. I forgot. But you know what? Nobody's
Everyone
ever
dies.
really dead. You can't.
Correct.
You know,
Buffy herself.
but for herself, and I mean,
Right.
yeah. So she can come back. It's all good.
Of course. Of course. All right, Shauna, kick us off with the Clerks.
All right. So Clerks stars Dante Hicks, who is your convenience store clerk, eponymously, and works next to his best friend and, eminent slacker, Randall Graves. And the two of them are having quite a day that just, you constantly hear. And again, this movie is so gosh darn quotable. The I'm not even supposed to be here today just like
Yes.
lives in my mind, and like I always think that every time like something goes wrong, and I'm just like, I'm not even supposed to be here today, is
Yeah.
literally. And so
It's the perfect
that
day in a life movie.
it is,
Yes.
and I think that, I remember you had mentioned, like, gosh, it's so, just moving from one skit to the next, but it
Yeah.
is, but
Yeah.
also I think that's okay, and, like, it's
Oh
such
yeah, I
a
didn't mean it as like
unpolished
a
movie in a, like,
yes.
older way, but also in a, like, it was his first movie filmed on a shoestring budget, like, and so I think
Yeah,
that you really see that in so much of what they do, and I there's a lot that happens and not a lot that happens, and I
exactly.
love all of the ultimate illusions that end up being in the different View Askewniverse movies, like, you get, Randall's cousin Walter, who is also in the beginning. When Brody gives his diatribe at the beginning of Mallrats, he's like, one time my cousin Walter got this cat stuck up his ass. True story. And then he goes on and talks, and like with the punchline being, Jesus, Walter, how else am I supposed to get the cat out? My cousin Walter was a weird guy. And it was because, and then he died trying to suck his own dick, because again, there's
I
a
do
very
remember that.
interesting, the way that it treats homosexuality is very interesting, and I'm going to
Yes.
get more into that later because that's one of the main notes that I have, but I find
Yes.
it's not negative. It's not like usually explicitly. Well, and I think they're like, even when it's like, right, it is very much countered in the text.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
again, I have a good point for that. But yeah, this iconic quotes, the music is so 90s-y good, like Alice in Chains, excellent. Silverchair.
Speaking of quotable, one of the things I wrote down, I forgot that there was a quote that I used to use all the time, which is "I'm a disturbance, you're a disturbance," and I forgot that was from Clerks until I saw it, and I was like, "Oh my fucking god!"
Oh my gosh!
God,
And
I
they're just
love
like cancer merchant, and like
yes, yes,
oh my.
yes. So we get Dante, who is off work and was supposed to, like, the whole plot hinges on the fact that he was not supposed to be working, and then he agrees to work, and he's supposed to be able to play a hockey game, and he is committed to playing that fucking hockey game because his boss is supposed to come relieve him at 12 o'clock.
Right.
And so, and then of course they go to the funeral of Julie Dwyer, who is the girl who causes the events of Mallrats to go into motion by doing laps in the YMCA pool until she had an aneurysm.
That's right.
And so, and then, you also see Rick Darris, who is this just fucked everybody kind of high school douchebag.
Yes.
And he is like the story about him and Cody is very important to the plot of Chasing Amy.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you also, because like Dante's like brother, I believe, is one of the or Gil Hicks is suitor number 3.
Yes.
Yes.
No, not Gil
Mallrats.
Hicks. Are you talking? Isn't it the guy from?
No, it's Dante is the character played by Brian O'Halloran, and then Brian O'Halloran plays essentially his brother in Mallrats as you know, because suitor number 1 gets gone, and then the second suitor is played by Brody. Not to be
Mhm.
confused with suitor number 2, because that sounds like a bathroom term. Yeah.
But something that we mentioned earlier is the way that it's structured. So it's like structured in this like scene by scene format. It's very sequential. It only
Chaptered.
follows. Yeah, it's chaptered literally. And each scene, like in and of itself, is a moment in time. Like you could pull that out, and it would just be a standalone sketch in a comedy show, and it would still be just as funny. And
Yes.
the first one with Jay and Silent Bob, my notes were just like, God, I fucking love Jay and Silent Bob. Those are two of my favorite characters in just like movies in general.
Yes.
But yes, I have so many quotes that are written down.
You want some making fuck berserker? Did you say making fuck?
Yeah,
And I just like, oh,
I will say, go ahead. Yeah,
So
just
I had a coworker, and he loved the View Askew movies as well, and we used to call ourselves. And his name was Rodney, right? But so he's this big, fairly quiet guy, and we used to call ourselves K and Silent Rod. Because, and there'll be times we'll be standing there, and I'd start going, fuck, 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 motherfuck, fuck, motherfuck, fuck, motherfuck, fuck, fuck,
fuck.
$50,
I
little
need you
man.
to understand. Yes, yes. Okay, so uh one of my like long-term like my best friend that I constantly talk about on this podcast, who now texts me when he hears me talk about him on the podcast. I've invited him to be our guest when we do Jay and Silent Bob, and I asked him to do it, and all he said back in response was "nong," and then it just like snoochy boochins came to my head, which again are words that have not come to my brain in a long time. And so when I was walking my dog earlier, I started on 15 bucks. Little man, put that shit in my hand. If that money doesn't show, then you owe me, oh. My jungle love. But I could not remember the beginning of it. So you doing the fuck, motherfucker. Now oh my God. Yes. So incredible. So what are some of our favorite scenes from the movie? You know, the relationships, the drama. It's like such a short
contractor. I think that is a great scene that I really feel like it was so ahead of its time in being like, no, if you're working for the evil empire, you are complicit in evil empire-ness. And I think that you're really seeing that these days. And I think it was very prescient, very ahead of its time.
Yes.
As well as also thinking that Empire is the better movie, which is time has really stood to prove Kevin Smith right in that point, which I think is also fascinating.
Yes, yes.
All Jedi had was a bunch of Muppets is like something that like lives in my brain. Gosh.
I think, honestly, only because like I've been in situations where I literally was called in. I planned on having a day off, and I come in, and honestly, I'm not even supposed to be here today. Lives in my head. Like it's just, I honestly like, and I know that like this movie is definitely quotable, but that's my go-to. Like it's just sort of like I'm not even supposed to be here today, even if I'm supposed to be there. I'm not even supposed to be here today. It's just, I don't know. I relate to Dante. Uh, I really do as a character. I want to say that I'm Randall, but truth is I'm more Dante than Randall. I know that, and it's fine. I have my Randall moments. I'm a Randall moments, but I'm definitely a Dante.
One of my notes is the writing is a touch forced at times, but the quality is so good. Like I can't tell how much of it is like, you know, just sort of like younger writers versus younger actors. Like I couldn't completely buy into the girlfriend. I can't remember the character's name. I was just like, she's acting. Like, she looks like she's acting.
Oh, and she is very one of the weaker parts of the movie in that
Yeah.
regard, like where you can tell where I'm like, oh, like she didn't really do anything afterwards, and that's
Right.
it was just her claim to fame as being,
The
the
girlfriend that sucked
girlfriend.
37
in
dicks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm 37.
Was that
Like, yeah,
Veronica?
yeah, Veronica, yeah. Oh, and
Veronica.
also,
Which
yeah,
is an name.
try not to suck any dick on the way to the parking lot is also one of those that, like, yeah.
Okay, so my notes in my like personal notes in order are: the writing is a touch forced. Then shout out to his girlfriend for sucking 37 dicks. They're 22, so I was like I was trying to like imagine like, okay, how many dicks have I sucked? Like way more than 37, but like at what point do I think I hit 37? Because they're in their early 20s. They're like in college.
Oh yeah. One of my notes was like, I do not miss my 20s. Like the 20-something drama that is this movie of like, oh, like
20-something drama of people who stayed too close to their hometown is something I'm grateful that I did not have to necessarily experience. But the next line after shout out to his girlfriend for sucking 37 dicks, the next one of try not to suck any dicks on the way to the parking lot. It's just that quote. That's it.
Hey, get back here. Like, and then the guy goes like, so good. It's so good. And like, but okay, so going with that sex shamingness though, because there is a lot of sex shaminess to a lot of their conversations in a lot of ways, where between the like, obviously the fact that Dante got cheated on all the damn time by this girl that he's pining over, this distant girlfriend who's getting married to the
design major.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just like,
is it an Asian design or is he himself Asian? I mean, I know the answer, but when you say it like that,
I actually just realized now that I have heard it wrong, and I thought it was just, as a movie made with just a whole bunch of white people, that it was an Asian design major, not an Asian design major.
That's why I'm asking, because I heard it as Asian design major.
But I'm almost wondering, I'm like, actually, I wonder if it was like, if Asian design was like he was very in a niche form of architecture and like almost like, or maybe like a feng shui, like he was ahead of his time. Like,
maybe.
I don't know.
Well, you know what? I think it's one of those things that how does it resonate with you? I mean, because I think it's one of those that it could be one or the other.
Yeah,
because
like,
hearing
the mom
way
seems like the kind of asshole who would make an explicit note of like, oh no, like.
Well, and specifically, like you said, it's a bunch of white folks. Like, hearing them note that he is Asian, does kind of ring true about how people talk about race, especially white folks. Like, to say he's Asian, like, is to point out that he is not white, and like that matters to that group because it is a group of white people, not necessarily neither negative nor positive.
I was gonna say noteworthy.
It's of note to them that he is Asian. Like, I don't in any way, shape, or form hear it as like gross, you're dating an Asian guy, or like why are like some type of denigration. It's just he's Asian.
Right.
Well, and I think that's a great segue to talking about the homophobia too, that I think was it was very casually prevalent in this movie as it is throughout the 90s and the 2000s. But honestly, like the way in which homophobia was in this movie, I feel made me think of the 2010s and of shows like Community, where they frequently would have, the character Pierce, played by Chevy Chase, where they would have him say something racist, sexist, homophobic, etc., as a nod, wink to make the audience, like, that it's being written that this is a negative, that it's being written with a critical eye,
right?
Yet it's still being platformed without any actual textual opposition in many
Right.
ways. And I feel like the homophobia of where, like, you see it with Jay, like where he was like, he'll like when he's like licking and he's like, and then he's like, whoa, well, like, and
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
you know, and like I feel like that kind of grappling with sexuality, like that's very prevalent throughout the whole movie. And I think you even see it at the end with the porno that Randall rents when he goes to
Yeah.
the good video store. Because I, again,
Yeah.
and another quote that always sticks with me with chicks with dicks that put mine to shame. And I always like, I love that, you know, for some reason that line always stuck out to me. And so I was just thinking like, gosh, okay. But like the way in which he was just very like, no, but like even when like the girlfriend was kind of trying to shame him, he was like, okay.
He's
Like,
like,
he's
fuck
like,
you. Yeah, like,
yeah, it's
you
like,
know,
what are you gonna do? Like, and like it was
this is
like,
what I
all
like.
right, you're lost. Like, you're lost if you're not watching it with me. Like,
Right.
all right.
Yeah.
But it was, but that kind of accepting where, like, oh, like, you know, again, like when you say, like, when they were like, you know, dropping different slurs and whatnot, but it still didn't even feel like it was being out of like hate or maliciousness as much as just a like, there was almost that it was very aware of gayness. And I think
Yes.
that's what makes Kevin Smith interesting is how aware of gayness he is, even when he isn't putting gay people explicitly in characters until
Mhm.
Chasing Amy. But there's
Right.
still, you can see that he has probably gay people in his sphere, that it's not a entirely heteronormative life that he's leading. And you can see that like the kind of care that he puts in talking about it, which is pretty unique to the time period.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a very okay. I would put like the whole thing with Randall, like that's a very real slice of life because I know
Mhm.
a lot of guys that, especially growing up, like guys that were that were straight, you know, or they identified as straight, but like they had no problem watching those scenes or
Mhm.
actively or like you know if they're watching a movie one of these you know clip tapes and then that scene comes up, they're completely fine with it. And you know but now I feel like it's almost one of those things like
Apes.
you're in the moment, you're in the moment, so you don't think anything about it. But if you point it out, and also oh no,
Yeah. Yeah.
dude, you just I saw what you were
Yeah.
watching. You know, I was like,
Well, I
oh
mean,
no, like but
Yeah.
that's like a very real. That was like a very real thing, and I not watching that when that happened. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, all right, you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah. Well, and it made me feel like kind of along those same lines, like he is still very definitively straight. Like
yes,
it just so happens that the women that he likes to watch in porn happen to have
or
dicks.
at least
yeah,
that one did, or that
that
At
did.
one did,
least
yeah,
at
Well,
least that
and
one did.
even
Exactly.
well, and so the other scene that called out to me was when they were talking about how the girlfriend was always cheating on Dante and how like you know they ended up like leading you know had led to two men hooking up together and then they ended up getting married. And so then the quote that Randall says is, you know, you led men to deviant lifestyles. But then literally in the next scene after Randall said that, he's naming pornos in front of a small child, literally and that's where like talking about his actual deviant lifestyle in a way that is inappropriate after like
Yeah.
yes,
being like, oh, these two decided to love each other as two men, how dare they? But actually
Right.
like, and I feel like it's that kind of tongue-in-cheekness, that awareness that it's like
yes,
Right.
not, it
yes,
wasn't actually a deviant lifestyle judging when it's showing on text him doing the actual deviant thing in the next scene.
Well, I think it's more specifically like he is not necessarily because when he's reading those, he's reading them oh wait, no, okay, he is. He's calling
He's
to check
ordering it,
for
yeah.
stock. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I didn't necessarily think of that for him. I thought about that for the people that come to the store, and which again, I didn't really put together that that was not an adult video store. But the thing that how that just sat with me after you said it is like in this previous scene where you know you're calling queer people deviant, there's probably a bunch of people who are like yeah that is super deviant, but kind of like we were talking about with Secretary, it uses the fact that there are so many people who are into weirder shit, who are weirder with big air quotes around it, like shit that you would also consider deviant,
hmm
that are doing the same thing, but you don't have anything to say about them because it's secret and behind closed doors.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
But because these people are openly living their lives, CC trans people in the other conversation we were having, as a reminder that, hey, you could choose to just be fucking happy and not live a gross repressed life that makes you hate other people
Right.
and call them deviant when you are behind closed doors watching, Randall gets pegged by Sheila volumes 1 through 5. Like, my good dude, butt sex is butt sex. Get over it. Like,
It doesn't really get
it
good
is.
until volume 6. That's what I hear. That's what I hear, though. So
Right.
Well, also as a
Hey,
point of order, those movies were absolutely for Randall. There's no way he's going through that much extra effort for any customer. He's not making
well,
phone calls for a customer. Those are for himself and himself alone, and you can't convince me otherwise.
it definitely, like, it kind of turned over as we were talking about it. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, that was just for him. He
Oh
was
yeah,
going to
that's
see if he could get them sent to him because they don't have them in his video store. But um two things that were very funny to me related to the whole movie rental life, which is just like, pour one out for renting movies.
I,
Like,
I
the
missed
youths
it.
will never know the joy of, you could you you procured the movie
Mhm.
and then you went home and watched it, and then you had to bring it back
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and get something else.
Yes, yes.
Now I get overwhelmed with, like, the row of things that I've decided I want to watch and watch none of them. Like, if
yeah.
I had to go to a store and work my way through the movies I want to watch, it would be a much different story.
Mhm.
But now, you have access to all of them. But anyways, the two things that I thought that made me chuckle were, a woman. Oh, it's when, I think it's because they're late to opening the store. Randall's late to opening the store, and someone comes up and I don't remember. Just a character yells, "I hate when I can't rent a movie," and I like, it just took me down for some reason, because it's like, what a '90s thing to say. Like, I hate when I can't rent a movie. Like, me too, sis. I hate that too.
I
But go ahead, yeah.
no, I honestly, I have to admit there are moments when I wish I look forward to, like, Friday nights, like, Friday night, when if I
Yes.
wasn't going out, was going to the video store, or Saturday afternoon going to
Yes.
the video store. And you know what? Maybe I was trying to avoid, I was trying to avoid renting Beastmaster 2, but the new movie wasn't out, and I was like, well, crap.
I want
I
that
guess it's
Beastmaster
gonna be
2
you,
again.
Beastmaster 2. So I didn't want that, or the Return to Dolomite. I don't know, but it's
Right, right. One of
actually,
the Please go ahead, sorry.
no, actually, there right now, down here in Akron, there's a art installation that replicates a video store, and it's filled with horror movies. So you should, guys, if you ever come down here, you can come down and check it out. So
Where is it? The art museum? There's an
yeah,
Akron Art Museum?
it's an art installation. I don't think it's a museum. I've been looking. I've been trying to find where it is, but yeah, it's down here in Akron somewhere. But yeah, it's like it has all the old movie posters. I think there's even
Yeah.
a concession desk there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh. One of the things that I miss about a specific time, because it only was for so long at Blockbuster, I don't was you could rent whole video game systems. Like, you could
Yes.
rent a PlayStation, you could rent a Nintendo 64.
Oh,
My specific memory is renting a PlayStation and the Space Jam video game that
Ooh.
was basically just, 2K, but with with Space Jam characters. Um, but I always wanted to work in a video store. I'm pretty sure I applied to Blockbuster when I was like 16, but didn't get it. Like, I don't remember if I, God, did. Either way, I always wanted to work in a video store. It always seemed like so much fun in
Yes.
all of the movies where people worked in video stores.
That's true. I never. That's a job I never had. I did get to be a clerk. I was a clerk for a drugstore. Um,
Oh,
and so that was fun. And that was another reason why, like, at that show, kind of the movie resonated with me, was that clerking experience. Like it's
Yeah.
and
It's like
it
waiting.
yeah, waiting. Yeah. Oh god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yes,
like if
it's
you've
slice
worked
of
in a
life.
restaurant, that movie hits a lot differently.
It does. Oh my god.
Really does.
Uh yeah, except that
Um,
whatever that thing he did with the where he
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, the bat wing or something. Yeah, yeah, but
Um,
also not that it didn't involve anyone's testicles, but I'll never forget when I worked at a restaurant. One of the chefs, um, he was joking that he was like going to take a bite out of an onion, like just a raw onion with its peels around it. And I was like, oh, gross, that's disgusting. He's like, no, it's not. And then he just fucking bit into this raw onion and chewed it and ate it. That's the type of shit that happens in the back of restaurants. Like, no, it was, I mean, I'm sure someone's testicles are out at some restaurant right now, but like, when I was working in a restaurant, thankfully that never happened. It was just this weird dude that I went to high school with who graduated 2 years before me and started working at this restaurant and bit an onion. It was very strange.
Oh god.
I then had a friend who would always take his testicles out after
Of
that
course.
movie and would then be like, "Oh my god, like I sat in gum," like, and would just
Yep.
loved
Whatever.
loved doing that. But again, and
Yeah.
it's so funny, all the ways in which my, like, friend group of my 20s was so very, like, n it was
Gay.
so gay, but so
Yeah.
straight in its gayness
Yeah.
that it was like, and me who had like no way to know how, like I felt like I could never participate then because of my like, and so that I just always felt weirdly in the middle of it all, but like not
Yeah.
ever actually a part of it nor able to like, oh, I don't miss it. I
Fit in
don't miss my
anyway.
20s.
Yeah, same.
No,
Well,
My
God.
main note
even
was I don't miss my 20s and just what another great reminder.
yeah. When there's really nothing gayer than like teenage boys. And I'm
That's true.
including through like 19 to 20, like boys in their teens are so fucking gay. Like
Mhm.
everything is so gay. You're constantly like touching each other for whatever reason. Sleepovers are weird and
Yes.
Yes.
gay.
Yeah.
Like it's just I really hope that the young people are still just as gay.
And I
And
think they're
probably
actually a
more
little
so.
gayer.
Yeah,
Not gonna
That's
I think they're a
true.
little
lie.
gayer. I think they are.
Just
Yeah,
like
which
they don't need to have
or
that much subtext. It just gets to be text for them. Like I saw
yeah,
the Mean Girls musical movie and I was like,
yeah,
"Oh, I love how gay it is." Like it's
yep.
so very gay in
Damien's
a way
super
that
gay, but also still just like regular person, not tropey gay.
right,
Right.
like well, even then I still think he was a little tropey, but at
Sure.
least a different, more realistic trope than a like fictional, like it felt like a more like based on a true story than it did like
Yeah.
the idea a straight person's idea of a gay person.
So just one, I guess maybe one more note, because again, it's a short movie that is really just a series of interactions between characters, very day in the life. But it's a great introduction into a lot of these characters that we get to know. Does does Gil? For some reason, I remember something about Dante and someone being gay in Mallrats. Someone having like a gay realization in Mallrats. Am I remembering that
No, no,
correctly?
no. The gay realization is that Banky Edwards, the character who is in Chasing Amy, he ends up getting with Hooper X, who is
Yes.
who is the one comic book writer who is like, okay, all right.
Got nothing.
Either
Yeah,
way,
it'll
that is
come
the
back to me at some
character.
point.
Their Chasing Amy characters are the ones who ended up coming out as gay, is what
Right.
it
Got
Yeah,
it.
is
that's right.
in
Yeah.
Jay and
Yeah.
Silent Bob.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Got it. So, any closing thoughts, things that really stuck out to you about uh, Clerks in general?
I need to go back and rewatch this movie. Honestly, it's been a long time. But it's one of those movies, and I love movies that are slices of life.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they fact is stranger than fiction, and every
Mm-hmm.
sometimes every now and then, looking at fiction feels like you're looking in a mirror. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my 50s now, and I don't know. I feel like it'd be kind of fun to go back and look at that and feel that energy that I
Yeah.
felt in my 20s. I
Well,
mean,
I think
Yeah.
that is the beauty of these movies. Like
yeah,
that, like finding the weird and the interesting and the mundane is so, like, just a day at the mall, a day at the convenience store, a day with
yes.
a
Exactly.
lesbian, more in
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah. All of some of my favorite days. So one of the end all be all question that we always ask, we are hot nerds, nerds are hot. Who is the hottest character in Clerks? And if there's no one that really like sticks out to you or like works for the answer, since you're our first View Askewniverse guest, you can pick anyone in the View Askewniverse if you'd like.
Okay. Um. Okay. So I did some research on this one because I wanted to make sure I was getting my answer right. And I was remembering my movies right. And here's the thing: I was about to say Veronica
Sure.
if we were sticking specifically with Clerks.
Yes, and it can be a yes and.
Okay, I'll say Veronica and I'm terrible with names. Uh the woman that is like the leader of Clit.
In Jane Silent Bob Strike
Jay and
Back,
Silent Bob, yeah. Yeah.
Isn't
Shauna
his
knows
wife?
because
Huh?
Isn't
Is it Kevin
the?
Smith's wife?
I
Yeah.
think it's Kevin Smith's wife,
Yes, yeah,
Jennifer
her.
Schwalbach.
Yes, yes, yeah. I mean, actually, I caught myself kind of muttering under my breath. I'm the Clit commander. I'm the commander of all Clits today, and I'm like, no, that's the wrong movie. That's the wrong movie. But I'm not the Clit commander. So
The Clit is its own commander if you know
yes, it
if
is.
you know what you're
Hmm.
doing.
Okay.
Shauna, who's your hottest character in Clerks? Because we'll talk about the View universe in general.
Okay, my hottest Clerks characters. I think I gotta go top three. I think we
Sure.
gotta go Caitlin Bree, the girlfriend.
The
I think,
girlfriend.
you know what, that look with like the white button-down shirt, and like, you
Yeah.
know what, I can see,
Very 90s cute.
why she got it. I can see why Dante had a hard time getting over her.
Hmm.
Like, even though he had a girl who was bringing him lasagna, which is pretty rare. You know, which, again,
Love you,
the,
lasagna
the
piece of
Kevin
shit.
Smithism at the end there, like, there are a lot of fine looking women in the world, but not all of them are going to bring you lasagna for lunch. And I was like, that's
No.
Yep.
such a true, like,
Yeah.
what a life lesson that I think a lot of 90s boys needed to hear and
Mhm.
Yep.
did. So thank you for that. But I'm going to go Caitlin second. I have to go with Berserker because I would like some making fuck. And so I think that definitely, I got to go with that guy. And third,
Yeah.
the old man with the erection who died, because clearly he could get it. And like,
Yeah.
you know what? He did a good job there. How do you get she fucking rode that for that long? Like,
Better, which also how sad it was better than any sex she ever had with Dante, which is
yeah, well,
not
I mean,
saying
I
a
guess
lot.
there's no dick like rigor mortis dick.
I
No,
guess
actually, never
nothing's
mind.
staying
Scratch
harder for
that. No,
sure.
just kidding. Forget I said
Yeah.
that.
Don't
It
cancel
sounds like
Shauna
he,
for fucking dead people.
it
Yeah,
sounds like he was a stand-up
rewind.
guy.
Yeah, there it is.
Well, I think actually he was sitting down.
I think or laying down, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, he's on
It's
the
very
toilet because
confusing.
Dante gave him the porno mag because
Oh
that's what you
yeah.
Yeah,
do. And
of
like,
course.
what a
Yeah.
weird. You know what? That
So
yeah.
I think mine. There's a little soft spot for Randall. I think the toxic
Mm,
guy. I was just like, ugh, whatever. He talks really fast and says funny shit, so I'm like kind of attracted to him. And then Silent Bob forever. I've always thought Kevin Smith was kind of cute.
mm.
But the number one person that I took the note but didn't even think about it. The guy that's on the ladder when they're playing hockey on the roof, and tells him he sucks at passing is super hot. He's my number one. He had a nice butt when he was trying to get into the store and then decides to climb up this ladder or whatever. I was absolutely like, oh, he's got a cute little butt. So nameless guy that owns Dante in hockey. You're my number one for Clerks. So as we wrap up, anything you are excited about in the nerd universe right now, Kylan? Anything that you are encouraging folks to check out?
You know what? I am jazzed for Captain America next week. That's coming out.
We got to get our tickets.
I got my tickets. I'm jazzed about that.
Yeah,
You have to get
And
a Marvel Rivals character.
yeah.
I have not hopped on the Marvel Rivals. Like right now, I play Snap, and I'm like, I can only do one Marvel game at a time. I tried to do two,
Sure.
and so I have to pick one, which one I'm gonna obsess over. And I'm looking forward to Daredevil, and I think that's gonna be in March.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
Reacher season 2 at the end of this month, and the third and final, I think it's the third and final section of season 6 of Cobra Kai. So,
Oh Lord.
Okay.
but yeah, so yeah, that's all the
See.
stuff that I kind of have
Oh,
countdowns going for. So, yeah.
God.
That
I love
Netflix
Alan
coming
Richson.
in. Did you all see the Netflix coming in 2025 thing?
Mm-mm.
No.
They did like a, I think it was before something I watched on Netflix. They did like a coming in, or maybe it was on Instagram or something. They were running down all the things that are coming to Netflix this year, and there was a few that I was like, oh my god, what? The one that stuck out to me because you know uh, they're making a Happy Gilmore 2, which is kind of
Yeah.
wild, and that's coming to Netflix. But yeah, and you plug your podcast really quick too.
Oh yeah, sure. So, Mighty Marvel Geeks, we are a Disney recognized award-winning Marvel podcast. We talk all
What?
things Marvel. Yeah, so we have guests and that sort of thing. We just had a guest last week that wrote a book that's coming out soon. Throw that real quick for the Captain Marvel fans out there. Her name
Oh,
is
nice.
Kelly Fitzpatrick. The book is called Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers Declassified, and that's part of a whole series, the
Hmm.
Declassified series. So yeah,
That's wild,
that
right?
was a fun interview. But yeah, so that's my podcast. We usually release weekly. Sometimes life happens, but if that's the case, we got
Right.
over 400 episodes or issues as we call them, so you can always pick one and play that.
Love that. Thanks. And where can folks find the podcast?
Uh,
On
yeah, any podcatcher. We are on mightymarvelgeeks.net. That's our website. Or you can find us pretty much any place where you've searched and play your podcast. We're there.
oh yeah.
Oh, and also
Thanks for
Instagram.
yeah.
Yeah, I think also Instagram, Facebook, I believe X, and we're not on Blue Sky yet. I think I'm gonna try and push for us to go over to Blue Sky and kind of forget X, but
It's better.
yeah,
You
We're trying.
should.
yeah.
I mean,
So
I'm succeeding.
yeah, I moved over. I
Um,
moved over to Blue Sky, and I'm that's where all my stuff is there. But some nerdy stuff there. Mainly, I talk about books and watches there. So
Mm.
I'm a big watch person. So
cool. Like wristwatches?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I do. I got into watches almost a year ago. So yeah, wristwatches. I have a couple of pocket watches, but mainly wristwatches, and I bounce between like Chinese watches and like Chinese and Japanese watches, and um my collection is growing now. So, but yeah,
Very
so you
cool.
get to see all my collection.
And drop your blue sky too. It's
Yeah, as
Bluesman.
I that blue yeah Bluesman 1103 dot blue sky dot
Yeah, the whole
yeah,
thing.
that. So yeah, but
Yeah, that.
if you type in Bluesman 1103, I'm the only one. You should find it. If there's anybody that's claiming to be me, I don't really
Item.
care, to be honest with you. They can pay my bills.
Call the nearest 68-year-old mom and have her go Krav Maga on that ass
Yeah, there you
because
go. There you
you
go.
learned your lessons. The other one's got to learn theirs.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining
Yeah,
us.
thanks for having
Be
me.
sure to follow us at Real Hot Nerd Pod on Instagram. and stream us everywhere and tell your friends about us, so we can dethrone a white man and get paid to do this one day. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. All right, y'all, we hit some technical difficulties, so we're going to end this recording here, and we'll pick up in part 2. See you there.